Hey everyone, so today in this video I'm going to be going over softball photography and some of the things that I like to look for and try to do when I'm covering a game. So recently I put out on a poll on my YouTube channel asking what people want to see in my next video, and it has been a while since that poll has been finished and softball photography won. They have been on the road, so I haven't been able to get to it, but they had a doubleheader last week. So I was able to capture a full game and then a little bit of the second game before I needed to head out. So I put my Sony ZV-1F on top of my Canon R6, mounted up the 300mm and started up in the stands. So starting up in the stands, it gives you a good angle to see the pitcher and to fill the frame with the field. And you can also see most of the players from center stands behind home plate. So I was trying to capture something a little more unique and different from what I normally capture. Typically I would shoot from the dugout, but I feel like I get locked in. Like once I go into the dugout, I get, let's be serious, I get lazy and don't leave. And that's a good angle for most things, but I really need to get used to moving around more and getting more unique shots, shooting from behind the plate, maybe from the visitor side of the dugout, so I can get the right-handed batters more often and just have a better angle at maybe our dugout to get celebration shots or whatever it may be. So I started up in the stands pretty low, and then I moved up a little bit, and then I went over to third base line, got some photos there. That gives you a good angle of any throw that goes to first base, or if the pitcher opens up to that side when she's throwing, you can see the face and the motion of the pitch. It's also a really good spot for any second base play. Third base is a little close with the 300 right there, but if I had switched to the 70-200, which I end up switching to pretty often, you could get third base from right there and also left field. With the 300, I could shoot the whole field from the dugout or third base line, and do pretty well even to right field with a little bit of cropping. So it works for softball very well. Typically I try to go to the 70-200. It allows me to get a little more infield without it being too tight and cutting off some ankles or whatever it may be. So typically if it's a sunny day, I will shoot at f4 or f5.6, and that just gives me a little more in focus and gives me a little more safety net when it comes to hitting focus on a fast action play. And then typically I'm at 2,000th of a second, if not faster. It all depends on the lighting and how high or low the sun is in the sky during the game. But typically that's usually where I'm at shutter speed wise, and then I just adjust my ISO accordingly. Typically it's about 400 to 200 on the ISO, but if I want to go super fast on the shutter speed, I'll have to bump that up. So it all just depends on what I'm going for that day or how the lighting is. So with the Canon R6, there are multiple different autofocus settings, and for pitching, if I'm shooting the pitcher from say third baseline or first baseline, I'm getting the full motion from the side. So the whole rotation of them spinning and jumping into their pitch or stepping into their pitch. So I use a different autofocus setting for pitching, and that allows me to make sure I'm not going to lose the focus and I don't have to follow them. So I put it into large zone autofocus horizontal, and that gives me an autofocus zone that covers almost all the way to the left and the right of the frame, and you can position that where in the frame you want that on the height. So I kind of just keep it in the middle, and it just auto tracks whatever's in that section. And if I'm focusing towards the pitcher, nobody else is going to be in that frame unless they hit and run, but I'm just getting it during the pitching. So that gives me a good autofocus to make sure I get the pitcher in focus during the whole series or sequence of burst. Now, another one I use during batting is zone, and that gives me a pretty solid square in the middle. And so if they kind of take a couple steps, because in softball, they occasionally will take a couple steps or go into a bunt, it gives me a good range of autofocus area that covers the motion of their swing or their bunt or their step into hit. So that's another one that I've found out that works very well for even baseball and softball and some other sports as well. It comes in pretty handy. Now, another one that I use in the field is typically spot and 1-point autofocus. Those are usually the ones that I stick to mostly for field, but sometimes I'll use the expand. That gives you a little square with a couple tiny squares around it. And I'll typically only go to the expand if I feel like I'm missing too many shots due to quicker plays or whatever it may be. But typically it's spot or 1-point is what I stick to. So that's pretty much it for today. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments below. It's always something that you have to work at and just try to find ways to be unique and different with your photos. So just get out there and try it out. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, put them down below. I'd appreciate it if you would like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.